We will call this meeting to order. We will establish a quorum, which we have. If we can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Gooch. I would ask for a motion to adopt the a regular agenda and the consent agenda.
I move that we remove Index Restaurant Supply contract and the Newkirk Novak Construction Partners contract from the consent agenda and move it to new business.
Would be under new business.
Yes. Is that right? And move that to new business.
All right.
So I make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving forward with the amended agenda, that will take us to recognitions. Our first recognition tonight will be the color guard.
Awesome, thank you everyone. First up, we would like to recognize our color guard students. So if you all want to come on up, we will hear a little bit about your season.
A little bit about us. Our season started prior to Thanksgiving break with auditions for our junior varsity and varsity winter guard. We start our competitive season early February, so about 4 months of training and prepping going into the season. We compete both nationally and regionally. With our regional circuit, our MCCGA, we do compete against 5 other different states, so that's essentially our state-leveled competition. It's been a year of successes for both of our high school teams. Our junior varsity won their division last year, which made them promoted into our varsity level division. So they competed directly against one another this season, and both remained competitive among it. At the end of the season, varsity came out with their second consecutive first placed finish of their state level competition at MCCGA down in Springfield, Missouri, against 20 some odd different teams from around the surrounding states. It's always onwards and upwards for growth and development and just education within the activity as we continue on to push for excellence and then eventually hopefully competing at Worlds in the near future. So yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations on a successful season, everybody.
Awesome, thank you so much. Unfortunately, journalism couldn't be here with us tonight, so they are on the agenda, but we will be recognizing those students in May, so a lot of those students weren't able to make it. But next up, I'm super excited to recognize Mrs. Courtney Michael as our Grain Valley Teacher of the Year. So Mrs. Michael and Dr. Drew Smith, if you'd like to come on up, we will recognize you for this great accomplishment.
I'm going to say a few words while we're getting situated. Courtney Michael is an English language arts teacher for us at Grain Valley High School. The interview panel was impressed by Mrs. Michael's passion for her career and her dedication to building relationships with each and every one of her students. They commented that she makes students feel welcome in her space and how that positively impacts their learning. In a nomination letter, a colleague wrote on her behalf that Mrs. Michael is deserving of this award for many reasons. As a coworker, I've observed Mrs. Michael to be very supportive of her colleagues, providing encouragement and positive feedback. I have also observed her ability to develop strong relationships with many students, resulting in their increased engagement and interest in learning. As a parent, Mrs. Michael has taught 2 of my children. She is knowledgeable and passionate about the subject matter she teaches. She fostered a love of reading and learning in general, even outside of school assignments. And as a sponsor for National Honor Society, Courtney has assisted with coordinating multiple community service projects. She has connected on multiple occasions with high school National Honor Society students who've helped make the community events a success. And the people who nominated her highly recommended her for this award, and we're just really proud of your work, Mrs. Michael, and your great representation to our community, so congratulations. And as our guests, don't leave yet, but as you leave tonight, we do have new plaques right out here in the hallway to recognize our Teacher of the Year and our Support Staff Member of the Year. So those plaques are new. Be sure to check those out on your way out tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next up we have our Support Staff Employee of the Year. That is Mr. Matt Wilson. So if you want to come on up, we'd also like to say a few words and recognize you.
Matt Wilson is a paraprofessional for the Essential Skills and Resource Classrooms at Matthews Elementary School. The interview panel was made up of community partners who were blown away by Mr. Wilson's dedication to our school district and how he works hard every day to connect with his students and help them reach their full potential by finding solutions to the many challenges that they face. In a nomination letter from a colleague, Mr. Wilson, they wrote, "Mr. Wilson works as a paraprofessional and can be found after hours doing custodial work for the district. He is one of the most dependable employees, and he always goes the extra mile. Matt accepts any challenge he is presented with. He has made it his mission to infuse the school culture with kindness. His catchphrase is, 'Choose kindness and you will never be wrong.' Matt's integrity and character are second to none. He has influenced our school culture in the most positive ways, and we are so blessed to have him here." Thank you, Mr. Wilson, and congratulations. Congratulations to both of our honorees. We're really proud to have you representing our school district. Congratulations.
All right. We want to thank all of the recognees tonight, and we appreciate all the hard work you've put in. So if you want to excuse yourself, now would be a good time to do that. Thanks again. We still have to read. Right. Yeah. All right, we will move on. So the next item on the agenda for tonight is patron comments. Any school district patron may present information to the board at this time. Presentations will be limited to no more than 5 minutes. The board will not take action on any issue not included on the published agenda. However, all comments will be taken into consideration by the Board of Education. Patrons are requested not to discuss individual faculty, staff, or students. Patrons are reminded that this is a public forum and comments relative to individuals could result in litigation. However, any patron may request to meet with the Board of Ed in executive session. No response will be given by the board at this time. There was no one that signed up. Is there anybody that wanted to sign up? All right, we will. That takes us to the reports. The first item under the reports is the draft safety priorities plan.
Yeah, We share this initial draft of safety priorities based on the results of a safety audit that was conducted over the winter and other in-district safety conversations. We're pleased to have Mr. Zach O'Neill with us. We'll have you make your way to the podium. He's with the Center for Safe Schools, and he's here to help answer any questions on the physical assessments that were conducted at each of our sites. We're going to let Dr. Gooch kind of share an overview of the priorities at this point. This is certainly in draft form. And I just want to remind everybody involved that, you know, this is when we're talking about safety priorities, we're kind of talking big picture kinds of things tonight. Any discussion that we would have on real specific safety features, we would want to make those, that would be part of a closed executive session kind of discussion, but certainly does not prevent us from talking about big picture kinds of goals. So with that, Dr. Gooch.
Sure, thank you. So as Mr. O'Neill went through and did his assessment of all of our buildings, the Center for Safe Schools reported to the school district, and you guys, the school board has each individual building's assessment. Really, as we went through and kind of read through all of the different building assessments, we really kind of took the recommendations and the ideas that we as a school district need to address, and we can consolidate those into three main general areas. The first one is the physical safety and security of the buildings. Pardon me. The other component of that is the operations and the emergency management component of it, and then lastly, the leadership, law, and the policy. And so, as you can see before you on our draft plan here, again, this is just a draft plan. These are some of the ideas and some of the things that were identified throughout this assessment of areas as a school district for us to just pay close attention to look at, to maybe address in one way or the other. So without going into a whole lot of specific details, as you can read them here in front of you, I also have had many conversations with Mr. O'Neill and kind of have identified, based off of our conversations, and I'll let him speak to some of this as well. We've even identified some of these specific items that are things we can address right now, like our biggest heavy priorities today. And then what we're doing in addition to all the other items that are listed in this plan, this is a plan that is going to take us, it starts now, or it has already started, excuse me, and it's going to progress for the foreseeable future. Some of these items can be addressed quickly with no money. Some of these items are going to take time in order for us to implement, and we'll have to find the resources in order to do that. So, this is a working document. This is a working plan for us, and so I will be working through this kind of more, taking each of these individual three physical areas, the physical area, the operations management, again, and the policy component, and fine-tuning this document over time with the safety and security team, as well as with additional feedback from Mr. O'Neill and the building administration and so on. And so we will be attacking this for the foreseeable future, for many months to come. But again, there were some very specific ideas in this plan of things that we should be addressing right now. And I will just highlight some of those, and I can turn it over to Mr. O'Neill as well. But as he and I have had dialogue about this document as well, we've identified things like certain procedures in regards to classroom door locks. All right, so what we do to manage our classroom doors, looking at our district's procedures in that area, and what are some things we can do to address the individual classroom door locks. So that is, without getting into full details, that is an area that Mr. O'Neill and I have had very lengthy discussions about. I've already had this discussion with the safety and security team. It's been discussed with building administration as well. I tell you, another thing is just looking at the physical being of our buildings and looking at how visitors interact and looking at where they come in, through the front office, through other parts of the building, And what does that interaction look like? And are our entry points, we're assessing them, and are they designed right now the most effective way, or are there other things we could be looking at to do a slight redesign? So we're really just kind of analyzing our entries and looking and saying, is this good enough, or is this something that we could fine tune again? And then, I will tell you the third one that he and I have had lengthy discussions about is just the general lighting on our facilities, because in dark spaces, bad things can happen. And so we have been discussing where are there some vulnerabilities, if there are any, and those are the biggest immediate things that we are approaching and we are attacking right now. And again, those are we're just looking to see how we do. And as we break down each individual building's assessment scores of this, really what we've focused in on right now for the things that we need to attack right now and the over the next few months and weeks and years is the areas in the assessments where we scored the lowest. So I would turn it over to myself or Mr. O'Neill for any specific questions, and if there's anything that you'd like to add to this as well. So.
Before I start, it was a pleasure working with your district, working with Dr. Gooch. I'm actually the CEO of a company called SlideSoft Technologies, and it utilizes technology plus assessments, et cetera. And one of the things is this becomes a roadmap for safety, meaning it's not something that can be solved overnight, but with these assessments, it's a roadmap. And one of the things we're actually talking about, and I'll go ahead and, I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's our technology is in a few thousand schools throughout the nation, and we're creating something called the Living Assessment. It's an ongoing, living, breathing assessment in the schools. It's a tool given to the schools. And SlideSoft is talking with Dr. Gooch about granting that technology to you all, since we are here in the same area. So, I want to start by saying that you guys are taking, like, everything I see, I can see a lot of action, you guys are taking things serious. And so it was awesome working with all of you, so, yeah. Do I have, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I would like to open up to the board for any questions if they're not pointed. If anybody has specific questions about certain parts of it that might let out vulnerabilities, we would need to obviously, like Dr. Welly had mentioned, keep those for a closed session. If those are the only types of questions that any of the other board members have, I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda again to add a closed session, an executive session now, where we could go in and discuss those and then come back out and finish our board meeting. Okay. Does anybody have any just general questions?
No, they're pretty specific, so, yeah.
I'll give a couple of examples of the types of things from the list that, although they don't get in the weeds, it gives you an idea of what we would be talking about. So Dr. Gooch mentioned door locks. So procedurally, what do we do about locking our classroom doors? But we could also reevaluate secondary locking devices. So that is something that can be evaluated, and we can report back item by item with the board, and we can do that in closed sessions as the data becomes available. Another thing you see on your list is window film, and it says where, it's listed as where and what. Window film is something that we have widely used. And so, we started doing that several years ago. So the question would be applied there, what is the industry standard for the mills on the window film, and, and then where should that all be located? And then we can come back with a full assessment of where we have film, what film do we have, And is there more work that needs to be done there? So that would be the type of example that we would report back to the board specifically. And then it would, if there were changes that need to happen there, they'd have budgetary implications. So we could report generically that we are going to put some X number of dollars towards window film improvements throughout the district, and then the specifics of where and how that was going to happen, we would do in closed session.
I'd make a motion to move into executive session to discuss some of the security things in depth.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor of moving into executive session? We'll do this on a roll call vote. Mr. Pollard?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. We will be moving into executive session temporarily to discuss the safety audit, and we will be back hopefully shortly.
cute little piles.
we will get back into the regular agenda. That takes us to the, let's see, do we want to go past the safety priorities? Are we done with that? Or do we want to get back into safety priorities and see if there's any additional discussion?
I don't need to.
All right. Next on the agenda is the curriculum report.
All right, so our curriculum review committee met on Monday, April 8th, our Eclipse Day. And per their request, we tried to reduce the number of curriculum reviewed by each committee, which went over well based on the feedback I got from them. What you'll see in the report is that most of the curriculum, with some small changes and tweaking, is ready for approval or for your eyes, whereas we had 2 content areas that, based on feedback, wanted additional time to work. So when we do our curriculum camp, which is the last week of May, they will come back in to finish up. They didn't feel like it was ready based on, they got some really good feedback from our groups. So Marissa Giangrasso, our committee chair, was here earlier but had to leave. I could reach out to her if anybody has specific questions for the committee. We also, well, Dr. Taylor was there. We had other members that were here that were part of the committee too, but I don't know if you have any specific questions about any specific feedback or content area, we could always arrange that if need be.
So I personally have went through most of these, and it looked like a lot of them that I went through were put together very well. So, and I appreciate the feedback from the committee and how this has been put together, so I appreciate that. Do any of the other members have anything to add? All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
So many of those will be back in an upcoming board meeting for approval, and the ones that are listed, no, they'll be back at an even later time for your review and approval. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Welly, you want to?
Yeah, some highlights in the last month. Really pleased with the outcome of our levy ballot measure that we had on April 2nd. We appreciate our school community for their support, and we appreciate all of our teachers and staff and everybody who helped with the support of that measure. We had great voter turnout, much larger than we typically have in April, and so given the other items that were on the ballot and our performance on that ballot, I think it says a lot for the support that we have with our community. We certainly take that very seriously. We also want to thank the school board for setting the tone for the district. Under the board's leadership, our focus on attracting and retaining high-quality people is really evident in the passage of the levy. So a couple other highlights. We are also facing increased costs on our health insurance coverage. So those expenses, we are self-insured, and so we cover those expenses. And this year was a particularly tough year for healthcare coverage. And we are, as we discussed last time, we're recommending a higher per employee monthly contribution by the district next year. And later in tonight's agenda, when we give you updated numbers on our budget projections, that'll be reflected in there, and we can maybe talk about it more at that time. And on a lighter note, we're really excited to announce we have our first annual senior walk. So on May 14th, the seniors at Grain Valley High School will be allowed to go back to the elementary school where they attended, or if they maybe weren't with us for elementary school and they want to attend with a friend and walk that, they can do that. So they'll be wearing their caps and gowns. So we think this is a great culture builder and extending that school spirit beyond just your building, but really more district-wide school spirit. So we're excited about that. A couple of highlights in the calendar down below. May is a very busy time of year. On May 9th, our high school seniors have their awards night. That is at 6 p.m. in the Jerry Mueller Performing Arts Center at the high school. And the board will be issuing several scholarships that night. So we look forward to that. May 16th is a big night. We will start our night at 4:45 p.m. The board will have a tour for any of you who are available. We'll tour the Phase 6 construction project with the weight room and the Fieldhouse Gymnasium. And then we will meet in the Jan Redding room. That'll be our May business meeting, not in this location. It'll be at the high school in the Jan Redding Community Room and Lecture Hall at 5:30. We'll plan for a board meeting, give or take, about an hour that night before getting prepped for one of the highlights of the year, the Snai Valley Academy graduation, also in the Jerry Mueller Performing Arts Center at 7 o'clock that night. So at the top of your next page, then the commencement ceremony for the Grain Valley High School class of 2024 is on May 20th. The ceremony begins at 7. We encourage our school board members to arrive between 5:30 and 6, depending on how close you want to park. We are going to be in suite number 1 this year, which I think is right up the stairs. As soon as you come in that gate 2, go right up the stairs. The suite's right there, and we'll have some refreshments for you there while we're waiting. And then we'll go back down closer to 6:30 and get ready for that exciting graduation ceremony. Any questions on, we would take questions on either on the highlights, the calendar, or anything within that administrative packet.
I'm super excited for the district to experience the senior walk. I think that is full circle in a bunch of different ways. It's fun for the elementary students. It's fun for those elementary teachers to see those seniors come back. I think you'll be very pleased with it, and it is a great PR opportunity to really showcase a lot of love that is experienced during that time. Super excited to see how that goes.
Great, thank you.
Can you give me any numbers on how many SNI kids will be graduating and how many Grain Valley High School kids will be graduating? Any idea yet?
Anybody have numbers on those? I've seen a range for Snai Valley, and I was thinking it was around 30 for Snai Valley, and I know that most of our high school classes are 350. We graduate a few out in December, so I would say we're probably in the 325 to 330 for our class of 2024.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
On the attendance items, are these percentages, are they averages through the year? So I'm looking at
Yes,
high
that's
school, so the 92.3 right now.
that is the school year to date percentage.
And if we drop below what we're calling the floor, what happens with that?
Dr. Allen, will you talk about that?
So the adjusted proportional target, there's 4 categories with MSIP 6 scoring. And so it's just how many points you get, but we only get scored as a district. So this is just for your eyes, just kind of to track building by building. We have a lot of attendance efforts going on right now. As you know, nationwide attendance is an issue. I will say that our attendance is trending higher than it was this time last year in every building, so that's good news. So we feel like we're moving in the right direction. But we also have a major attendance campaign coming out next year. We've had an ad hoc group working this year, and so it'll roll out before school even starts next year. So you'll see even more attendance efforts because we'd like to see that pre-pandemic number back.
And for MSEP 6 purposes, from a district standpoint, we're in no danger, we're in good shape.
We aren't in any danger. I mean, we'd always like it to be higher. Higher attendance benefits us in a lot of ways. So it's going to continue to be a focus for us. Like I said, nationwide, this is an issue. I feel like in comparison to, say, the state, we're doing fantastic. But it doesn't mean we won't continue to pour a lot of effort into it.
Also included with the superintendent's report is our year-to-date financial summary. There's also a construction update in there and school lunch charges update. And at the bottom of that page is Dr. Gooch's recommendation, just from communication standpoint, and also their what he and the administrators are working through is some accountability measures that are I don't want to call them soft, but they're basically we're not going to penalize the student at lunch for lunch charges, but there might be some other privileges that are delayed or are triggered that, hey, if you want to go to the school dance, for example, then let's come up with a plan. Let's come up with a repayment plan on these lunch charges as with your family, so before we issue you this dance ticket. So those are the kinds of things that would be new for us that we would like to do moving forward.
Do any of the members have anything that they'd like to talk about on that aspect?
With regard to the student lunches, part of your recommendation is to text parents daily, it looks like. And I support that, but there are many federal laws and state laws that might not, so please make sure you're in compliance with all federal and state laws. TCPA, for example, is one that you have to make sure that they opt in to getting those specific reminders. So just be careful. That's the only thing that I would suggest.
Yeah, the other risk around texting is if the parent unsubscribes from those texts, then are they unsubscribing from all of our communications? So, yeah, there's risks involved.
And I mean, the recommendation, I have to also still work with the new software program, Parent Square, to really fully understand its full capabilities. So this is really we're gonna look at them and have discussions with them to kind of determine what is reasonable with their software program as well, so. I just would like to increase communication.
Yeah, makes sense. I just wouldn't assume that their privacy policy is accurate. I'd make sure that we're
Yeah,
comfortable with.
We definitely, if we can slow the growth on that problem, the measure's pretty clear, and Dr. Gooch, he's got year-over-year numbers there, so we'll be able to continue to track that and see test whatever our efforts are and make adjustments as needed. So we appreciate the board input on that.
So with those recommendations, is that something that administration will just enact that doesn't require board approval? That's something that you,
Correct. Now, if there were ever things that we're recommending that there are hurdles that keep us from moving forward, then we would bring those back as we encounter them. We mostly wanted to put it to you as a recommendation tonight from a standpoint of getting, the board had a lot of discussion with this the last time, and so we wanted to kind of put it back in front of the board and just see if you feel like we're on the right track, and if so, I think in this case we have what we need to move forward.
yeah, and I agree with that. There was a lot of discussion about it, and, yeah, just want to make sure that go ahead.
Yeah, I love the ideas. There are a lot of privileges and rewards that aren't mandatory for kids, and I completely support that. The thing that caused me a little concern is AP class fees. We don't want to obviously restrict their access to education or receiving that. So,
That's why it wasn't part of the recommendation on the bottom. That was just one of the options that we discussed, like what are all of the things that are possible to withhold, but that was not ever really a recommendation. So the ones that are listed underneath the high school and the ones that are listed as the middle school, there are only a few of those selected items that are down within the recommendation.
So that's just a brainstorm list
Correct.
up above.
got it.
Thank you for that clarification.
And I don't think we're going to touch on the finance report. I don't think any of us have any questions, but I do want to reiterate that is awesome. I really like seeing that. I like the way it's set up, and I do appreciate it. So thank you.
All right. That will take us to the next item on the agenda, the Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Yes, the Finance Committee just met on April 9th, and these are the draft minutes from their meeting. Probably the primary thing that we did that night was that committee previewed the numbers that the board is going to see later in the agenda tonight on our updated revenues and expenditure projections for the upcoming school year. So we just get those minutes in front of you, and we'll have that committee approve those the next time they meet.
Any discussion on any of those items? All right. Next item on the agenda is the MSBA report. Dr. Gooch?
Welcome to the April edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin with a look back at the beginning of MSBA's Spring Advocacy Series. The spring virtual meeting was held on March 13th and featured a presentation by Dr. Stephanie Cuevas, an assistant professor of education at Atala College of Educational Studies at Chapman University in California. She is the co-author of the scholastic book Everyone Wins: The Evidence for Family-School Partnerships and Implications for Practice. Dr. Cuevas considers it imperative to consider the significant and central role that families play in shaping the educational experiences of students. During the session, she said that although board members aren't involved in the day-to-day of school operations, there are still many ways that they can help promote family involvement.
And I think it's just advocating for it, right? And again, really, how are you defining parent involvement, family engagement, and understanding that it is a variety of things, right? It's not just a very typical, we used to call it, moving beyond the bake sale, right? That is not just, families doing that, but again, something that folks that are not in the nitty gritty of schools every day can advocate for is like, how do we get creative about developing the educator's capacity to do that? Another way is always, advocate for more funding for it. Right. So I think that those are two ways to like really think about like, well, what is needed in my local context, district level or state level, and really how do we help both educators and families learn how to work with each other. And that's through capacity development, often being professional development and making it a requirement. Like I mentioned before, and a lot of research shows that, I as a teacher, I as a principal am expected to make these relationships happen, but I don't know how.
The first Lunch and Learn of the Spring Advocacy Series featured an interview with Dr. Margie Van Dieven, conducted by MSBA Executive Director Melissa Randall. The discussion covered a variety of topics, covering many of Dr. Van Dieven's experiences, opportunities, and challenges she faced as Commissioner of Education. She explained that regardless of your role in education, staying focused on your why is key to serving.
It is about serving every student every day. I mean, it just that you hear that often throughout our state, but that is the why. And what I have found to be a little bit challenging at the department level. Sorry, this is longer than 30 seconds, but it is always about what's best for our kids. And people remind me that I'm much removed from that student in the classroom at Jefferson City in those. So what can I do? A lot of times my why shifts to how do I lift up those we serve, our students, by lifting up those who serve them. You've heard me say that. And our job really at the department is how do we put systems or policies in place that help the local leaders do their jobs and in a better way to better serve our kids, help them, help our students.
Dr. Van Dieven also thanked school board members for their support during her time as commissioner.
That is probably one of the first things I learned in my role at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and working with school improvement efforts is the critical role that our local school board members play. And I have grown in relationship with many of the local school board members across the state, so thank you for your support. For your professionalism, but also for your friendship throughout this time.
State Senator Carla Esslinger will be Missouri's next Commissioner of Education beginning in June. Esslinger will continue her work as a state senator until June 1st, when she will join Dr. Van Dieven in the commissioner's spot and begin the transition. The deadline is approaching to sign up for your district's free emergency operations plan development tool. MSBA, in partnership with the Department of Public Safety, is offering another school safety improvement program for fiscal year 24, expiring on June 1st of this year. The program funding provides public school districts that did not participate in last year's funding program with 1 year at no cost access to MSBA's online emergency operations plan development tool, MOEOP. Any Missouri public school district or charter school not using the MOEOP tool should take advantage of this limited time offer. John McDonald, the Chief Operating Officer of MSBA's Center for Education Safety, says that it's more important than ever to have a good emergency operations plan.
I responded to and managed school threats and emergencies for the past 16 years. And what I know to be true is that the school threats of today are more complicated than ever before. And the very best school safety, prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery begins with a robust emergency operation plan. At CES, we believe strongly, like all of you, in the duty to protect our students and staff. And it was with this in mind that we created the web-based Missouri Emergency Operation Plan tool, also known as MOEOP, that 247 districts across the state have been using for the past year. The MOEOP tool, with your input, will provide you with a safe and secure web-based all-hazard school emergency operation plan.
Visit the MSBA website for more information on how to register for your district's free MOEOP tool. Make your plans now to attend MSBA's Summer Summit June 24th and 25th in Branson. Join school board members and leaders from across Missouri to learn about emerging trends and hot topics in education. It's a great opportunity to participate in valuable sessions and to connect with your colleagues from school districts across the state. Also, be sure your board is represented at the June Delegate Assembly to be held in conjunction with the Summer Summit. Delegates will be electing state officers for the coming year at that meeting. The nominating committee is proposing a slate of officers for consideration, including the offices of President-elect and Vice President. You can watch video interviews with the candidates for state office posted on the MSBA website. Registration information for the Summer Summit is also posted on the website. And last but certainly not least, if you were elected to your school board for the first time this month, welcome to school board service. Missouri law requires all school board members to receive 18.5 hours of training within their first 12 months of service. MSBA's new board member training fulfills this requirement and provides the foundation for becoming an effective board member. The training is free for all new board members. Check the MSBA website for a schedule of training opportunities along with registration information. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in May for the next MSBA Board Report.
Thank you for that, Dr. Gooch. That takes us to unfinished business. The first item on the agenda for unfinished business is a recap of where we're at with the annual priorities progress update.
Thank you. Yeah, we're sharing our final quarter's updates, progress with you. We track these December, February, April, and so I'm going to turn it over to our assistant superintendents, and they're going to jump back and forth between the priorities. And so Dr. Allen's going to start us out with priority 1, which is improving early literacy instruction.
So there's a lot to say about literacy. What I would say about this is there's going to be a new variation of this, I would say, on our next priorities list. While we did accomplish the goals for the most part that we set this year, our K-2 implementation of UFly has gone very well. We anticipate moving forward with that for our phonics program. Our reading success plans that were mandated for the state, met every deadline this year, successfully implemented those. We are awaiting guidance for next year because it is our understanding that all of those plans will move from 5th grade up to 6th grade next year, but we don't have the guidance surrounding that, such as there's a lot of stipulations about what qualifies a student for a reading success plan, what allows them to exit it, the interventions provided, and none of that has been released by the state yet. So I have gone over and had conversations with our middle school 6th grade teachers to prepare them for that, given them sort of a tidbit of experience of what our K-5 teachers have experienced to get them prepared, but a lot more will be coming on those lines as they move up every single year. Our updated literacy plan will be drafted. We are still awaiting state guidance on our comprehensive literacy plan. So while we had to have a very kind of rough draft in October 1, they were supposed to come out with, a 75-page document with guidance for us to write that throughout the course of this year. The guidance has not come out yet. So I'm anticipating that one rolling over to next year. And then continuing to train for Orton Gillingham. As of when I submitted my report, we were at 16 teachers. We are up to 22 now that will be trained this summer. We're keeping a spreadsheet basically of every teacher, K-5, trying to get every single teacher trained, and we will just be left with one cohort of that includes special education and regular education teachers by the end of the summer. So we've got a very doable goal next year to finish training all of our staff in Orton Gillingham or letters. So again, I see these priorities changing a little bit, but I do see literacy continuing to be a focus. I gave you a little bit more in depth of where we are and where we're headed in my academic report this month as well.
So on the guidance side, is that standard or to not have guidance as of now, as far as how you're going to move forward with that?
Well, the comprehensive literacy plan was new, so this is a new mandate by the state. It was mentioned to us, I'm going to say last August. Then when MSIP 6 rolled around, when we had things due for it, they said, well, you just need to have a draft plan, and we don't have any guidance, so just put together sort of what you've been using, what you've been doing, which is what we submitted. It's not very long. It needs to be way more comprehensive. And then they released part 1 of why they're doing a comprehensive literacy plan, and part 2 tells you what should be in it, and they haven't released any of that. They just keep saying it's coming. So I will say what's typical is from DESE, things do move slowly. So.
Does anybody else have any questions about priority 1? All right, Dr. Gooch.
Thank you. So I'm going to address priority number 2, which is developing the comprehensive facilities audit. We are progressing through this one. It is still yellow because this is not going to be a priority that is fully completed this year. However, we have taken some pretty good steps moving forward with it. I would like to remind you guys have already approved us as a school district to bring back in another company to do a demography study. That initial meeting has happened and that is underway. That demography study has started and it will continue through the fall. So that has started. Last week at the board workshop, you guys approved the ability for us to move forward with Hollis & Miller, architectural firm, coming in and helping the district develop our next long-range plan. And so that is underway. I believe they are actually going to start next week by coming in and looking at our Matthews facility, the inside and the outside of it, the layout of the building and so on. And so that is underway as well. And then we have met with our district's new facilities planning committee. The first meeting was March the 27th, and we have had those initial conversations with that committee. They met the Hollis & Miller architect firm that's going to be helping us with our long-range plan as well. And so, really right now, as a school district, this priority will continue to develop and evolve over the next 6 to 12 months as we receive information from the 2 outside organizations that are helping us through this process. And so there will be more information to come with this as we gain new information from both the demography study as well as Hollis & Miller architectural firm. So I'll take questions if you have any.
So on what I saw down here, what drew my attention was the additional programming and space to support the emotional and behavioral needs for students. I know that's being evaluated, but do we have, how are we positioned for space moving into the next school year? Are we adequate?
Adequate is a comfortable word to describe it. We're tight. I would say that we are tight in that specific area, and what we're doing as a district, working with Dr. Shank as well as the building administration, is just to come up with ways within our buildings to address the growing needs that we have. What are things we can do currently to modify certain facilities, certain offices that we can do without looking to the bigger picture of needing new facilities? We're looking at what we need to be doing internally to allow for the expansion or the growth of that particular area. But just to be full honest, we are tight, but that's nothing that we aren't used to, and we'll make those modifications that we need to do until we have the next step plan for us to do as a district. So our spaces are just always tight. That happens in growing school districts, but I'm proud of the work that Dr. Shank has done with you know, with the planning and the state and what she does with the principals to ensure that the needs of our students are being met. So we're trying to address them as we can.
We're probably in pretty good shape for a year or two with existing programs, but we need more space for these programs to grow beyond the next year or two. And then there are other programs to consider for mental and behavioral health that would
Absolutely.
require different types of personnel, different numbers of personnel, and of course, it has budget implications as well for those types of things. So this is the facility side of it, but there's a whole other dimension of program-wise, budgeting and personnel-wise of what we would do to grow those programs. Some of them we contract out right now.
Sure be nice to bring that back in at some point.
Anybody else? Dr. Allen?
So priority 3 centers around providing MTSS, some of its education, some of its support for student behavior. The first goal on there was to select a character education program. As you know, we received a Children's Services Fund grant this year, but we received it in August. So getting everybody on the same page to choose a character education program really wasn't possible in August. So we just said, have at it. Here's your budget. It's going to be free for us this year. Try different ones, and let's form an ad hoc committee with a rubric, score them throughout the year, and see what we think works best. So they've been hard at work. They have made a selection for next year. We're still going to call next year our pilot year because we want to try these out for a year. I'd also like to bring to our next year's spring curriculum review committee the scope and sequence for each of these so that we can share them out with families so that they can kind of see what we piloted this year. So for K-5, they are looking at using Character Strong with some embedded random acts of kindness. Character Strong will cost, random acts of kindness is free. So it's going to be a little bit of a combination of the two. And then for middle school and high school, they've chosen something called Human Connections Hub for next year. And again, we'll have a lot more information for you as we get that scope and sequence developed for next year. And then our hope would be to bring that to our spring curriculum review committee, and then that would come before you after that to take a look at our scope and sequence for what's built in is it's called different things in every building, but basically advisory time. That could be anywhere around 15 minutes, several times a week to work on character education. Behavior data will be tracked at each school each month. That is fully implemented, and we're happy to say that we're still working on some of the fine tunings of what do we do with Tier 2 students, what do we do with Tier 3 students, how to tweak behavior plans, what do we do when things aren't working. So we are still doing a lot of training and a lot of work with that. Dr. Reich's very heavily involved with that. She works with Jared Duncan, our behavior specialist, along with Dr. Schonk. So it's a team effort for sure. I see that work continuing, but we definitely made our goal this year. And then by May 2024, at least 75% of our teachers will agree that MTSS for behavior is improved. We just sent out that survey. It is due on April 24th, so we'll have that feedback soon. But essentially, we want to know that teachers know what MTSS for behavior is by the end of this year because they've been receiving PD on it. We want to know that they believe that it's positively impacting their school culture and positively impacting school behavior, student behavior by teaching skills and providing the support that students need. So we will have that feedback by a week from now.
Any questions or comments? Dr. Gooch?
All right. So this next priority is around the school district developing a district safety plan that prioritizes the needed improvements. We have talked at a big length about this already for a little bit in closed session, but I will tell you that the document that you guys saw with the specific things that we've identified from the executive summary and from all the individual building summaries, what our plan is at this point is to take that information and then bring back to you in May really a kind of a timeline and the budgetary amounts needed, the resources needed for each of those individual items that we've identified as as what we need to address. And so you've seen kind of the first version of it. Next step is to take it one step further and say, all right, we are implementing this, we are changing this, this is going to, the resources we need to devote to this. It's really it's kind of our beginning stages of a roadmap to, enhance the safety and security of our buildings. And then, another item that we'll do is ask for our community, our patrons, our families, the input from them to kind of help also shape what our plans need to be, and ask it in a way of a survey, but not in a way that asks them to give away any potential vulnerabilities or anything like that. So we're just really, we're going to try to develop a survey that would ask them to kind of help us rank what our community sees as our biggest priorities in the world of safety and security as well. So today was kind of the first draft of what it is that we've identified as things that we're going to work towards, and we're going to ask families for some input on it, and stay tuned for more information as this continues to evolve over the next few months as well.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you for all your work on that. I know
My kids
it was,
are here too. I'm
yeah. It means a lot, so thank you.
and I appreciate that. It's, it's definitely, I'm proud of the work we've done, and we're not perfect, and so we're going to continue to strive towards perfection. We'll get there. That's right. It's a pursuit.
So the only thing that I had noted was about the stakeholder input, which you clarified that's going to be through a survey of
Yeah,
some
it's
sort.
just, we're going to have to be really kind of specific and strategic how we ask families for their specific input without, necessarily addressing or bringing light to anything that, we are already working on. It's just, we're going to figure out ways to ask questions to our community of what their biggest priorities are and how they can tie into what we have already identified as our needs.
Okay.
We can throw some perception questions in there that are open-ended, and we might learn that families in one part of town, or another part of town have certain perceptions about safety vulnerabilities that will help us also learn more about how we're perceived. So, yeah, we'll get that going yet this spring.
All right. Dr. Allen?
No, it's me again.
Oh, it's you again?
I did say back and forth.
You did.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
Curveball.
I'm pleased to finally be able to report on a priority that is in the green, and that is based off of the outstanding work that the board has authorized us to do and the community has supported. Priority number 5 is obviously to evaluate local funding options for a proposed levy, and we all know that the levy passed, new pay scales have been updated, and the school board, you all approved that at the last meeting. So thank you to each of you. Thank you to the community for allowing that priority to be in the green.
All right.
Any questions
Thank
on
you.
that?
I don't think there's any questions on that one. Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions overall about that report? Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the 2024-2025 budget discussion. This is, I believe, the first look of next year's budget, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and we're joined by Mr. Hooper, who helped formulate this report, and I'll give you the big picture of what you're looking at, because obviously you're not looking at the whole budget, but what you're seeing is on the revenue side, what are we going to do? Where are the big changes to revenues for next year? And then down below, where are the changes to our expenditures? So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hooper to kind of walk us through it.
We won't go through all of them. It is the operating budget, so this does not include anything in debt service, and then we've also removed anything that's bond related. So none of those expenditures are in there as well. Currently, that first line there, currently our operating revenues are at 57 million, and you can see the numbers, so I don't have to keep naming all of them. We're at that number there. The first one there that we'll note is the increase due to the tax levy. So with the approval of the new tax rate. This is what we're looking at, and we did base that off of, the Jackson County did not send out any revised numbers at all on assessed valuations, and they're not going to. So we based it off of last year's assessed valuations. So, for whatever worth that is, I mean, it should be pretty accurate because we did not include any new construction or anything like that. So, we're estimating the $3.5 million, almost $3.6 million. The increase in Prop C is up $731,694, and basically that is due to the fact that the calculation went from 1374 to 1475, and so that's the gain in that calculation there. Just to kind of mention, the food service, the student activities, and the Valley Kids, just to kind of note for both the revenues and the expenditure part, the way we are budgeting those is at a net zero margin impact. So we're basically saying they're going to be self-sustaining. So the revenues are going to equal the expenditures. And so the adjustments on here that are made to the revenues as well as the expenditures down the bottom basically make them flat to have no impact on the budget. So when you see some of these increases, just know that it's basically going to have zero impact on the budget. Another one of the big increases is the SAT, the $1.6 million, and that again is due to the increase finally of the SAT formula from 6,375 to $6,760. The classroom trust, that's an increase below, that moves along with the SAT, and so they pretty much are pretty sure that this next year they're going to fully fund this. It's that increase the following year that is kind of in question. So we're pretty confident with this year. The next year, their second half of the increase is what we're not so confident about. Another one of the big ones is obviously the decrease in the ESSER 3 funds of the $1,026,790. So this will be the last time that we receive any ESSER funds this year. Anything else on the revenue that I did not mention that, yeah, sorry, Brad.
I want to point out, because you pointed out the increase in the adequacy target, the SAT, the 1.6 million, that's really important for next year. That's been projected to be the first half of the increase. So the second half could happen in 3 different ways. We could get the full second half the following year, which would be fantastic. We could get partial of the second half the next year, and the state could take a few years to pay that out 100%. It could be that the first half is the only half we ever see. So when you start to hear DESE and you start to hear MSBA talk about the fiscal cliff ahead, this is one of the equations. Is the SAT's been recalculated, but until the state funds it, it's not funded. So we're counting on 1.6 million in new revenue. Everybody says this is coming next year. So we feel comfortable with this number, but when we call it the first half, we're a lot less comfortable with the second half moving forward. And that'll be, we're always trying to look 2 and 3 steps ahead. So I wanted to insert that.
Sure. And as we talk about attendance, this is obviously, it's driven by attendance. So the formula's changed, and this year will be the first year that we as a district, and I think most districts in the state, are going to actually estimate. So we're hoping that we come on, if there's any less or anything, we'd like to actually come a little higher than what we are. So that number could go up or down based off of what we come up with on there. So
And we wouldn't know that until the fall amendment on the budget.
correct. Is there anything else in the revenues anybody has any questions on? Okay, so moving down to the operating expenses. Again, as of 4/7, our current budget is $56,626,830. The biggest increases are going to be, one, obviously, is the increase due to the base salary and step increase, and that's all of the new salary schedules, as well as the base increase in the step movement is $3,034,974. The next line is the calculation of the increase, the board insurance contribution of $1,260 annually. That's going from $7,800 per person a year to $9,060 a person per year. And that impact is estimated impact is $756,564. That includes the insurance part, board paid contribution of the insurance, as well as the impact that it has on retirement. So that includes both of those are included in that number. Then we have the $402,000 increase for the new positions. And I believe you guys have approved and seen those lists there. Other big ones, again, the food service one we already talked about. The bus one may look a little confusing just because it says 4 buses are increased and the actual cost is $419,000, but the increase is only $246,000. That's because there currently is $173,000 budgeted for vehicles that we purchased this year, and so that's why the difference is not that full $419,000. But those buses, I think we weren't really sure if they may happen or not, but they are going to happen because I think they're pretty much ready for us to take ownership of right after the beginning of the year.
Did you hit E-rate? Could you kind of talk about why E-rate is down and kind of briefly what that is?
No, I can do that. So E-rate has a reduction in both the revenues and the expenditure side, and it's basically technology equipment that we can purchase and get reimbursed. It's about a 50%? It's about a 50% reimbursement, so we spend it and then we get reimbursed 50%. I believe, and Dr. Gooch is more versed in this than I am, but I believe that there's you can claim up to so much in 5 years and it resets every 5 years. And we have already maxed out our claims for this 5-year period. So we cannot claim anything else for the next few years. And so that's why we removed it, both the revenues and the expenditures out of the budget for this next year.
If I remember, just a few years ago, those 2 little blue Grain Valley, little mini SUV things, we bought those off of E-rate.
We did.
Rebate money.
Yes, we did. And it was, the E-rate program when we purchased those was just slightly different than it is now. They put a bigger emphasis on what they are calling a category or priority 2 funding, which is what we've been using part of those funds to improve our district's network. So yeah, we've, like Mr. Hooper said, we have utilized every penny that's available to us to, it's free money for us, so we've used it all.
It'll come back, but for now.
Yeah, it'll come back in a
zero.
couple years, but we've capped out. And honestly, we're in a good position right now where we aren't going to need necessarily any network equipment that isn't able to be taken within our technology budget anyway, because we've done a pretty massive overhaul in the last 2 years.
Thank you.
So anything else on any of the expenditures before we kind of talk about the bottom line number, right? All right, so as you can see, the bottom line right now is a estimated revenue overage. I was told I had to correct this from the finance meeting, what was on there. The overage, $494,000. Now, this is really, like you said, this is the first round for budgets. So kind of the next steps are we need to update the technologies budget. We have not received their full budget for next year, so there will be some changes due to technologies requests and what their budget comes out at. Also, we'll be adding in the work comp and the short-term disability cost in there, as well as we'll start going through and looking at the list of staff that we have right now. Make sure that we didn't pull someone who is marked as still being an active employee that really isn't still here yet. And then also those who will be leaving the district, we will be backfilling those with open positions, or if we know the person at the time, we'll be updating those with actual positions and their actual salary for next year. Typically, we tend to gain some money on that as well. But basically, all this to say is we are anticipating that the $494,000 is really going to be closer to zero by the time we get all of this done and all the movements. So don't get too excited about the positive right now. And then another little piece to kind of throw in there is that we still have budgeted, next year, $389,000 of interest revenue. And we may still get it as long as if the feds keep saying, hey, we're pushing it back, the longer they do that, the better off we're gonna be on that. But if, at some point, that is going to start dwindling and kind of go away, so.
All right, thank you. Does any members have any questions or comments on the draft budget? No? All right, so this item will come back. The next time we'll see it will be the June workshop, and
It'll be pretty comprehensive by then.
then it'll be back for final approval at the June board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hooper.
The next item on the agenda looks like, let's see,
MSBA summer.
MSB, yep, there you go. MSBA Summer Summit, June 24th through the 26th in Branson.
Just a placeholder to remind the board to check your calendars and let Mrs. Clappin know if that's something that you're interested in, and she can work with you to make sure you get reserved for that.
Undetermined. It's a Monday through a Wednesday this year, which is different than it has been in the past, so. All right, that takes us to new business. Administrator contract language for the 2024-2025 school year.
Yeah, we had our attorneys look at our administrative contract language. Last year, we had them look at our teacher contract language, and it had been a while on this one, and so we sent it to them, and we had them, you know, you ask an attorney what they think contract should look like, and they found quite a few things to put in there. As I look through it, I think they did a good thing for us on this. There isn't, from an employee standpoint, these are just clarifications. So there's no big significant change. There's just more language that was already true in policy that our attorneys recommend just get it in front of everybody's eyes in their contract for their terms of employment. So we don't need board approval on this, but when you do vote to authorize contracts, it seems only fair that you actually know what the contract language is. So we wanted to get that in front of you, and you could see that there's several yellow sections that a couple of them look like it's brand new information, and in some cases it is, and in other cases they just consolidated and clarified what was already there. So if there are, we'll take any questions on this if you have any feedback. But our team has looked at this, and we feel good about. I mean, we asked for the opinion. We asked for the view of the attorney because we wanted to make sure that we were still compliant. Our attorneys see a lot of things in a lot of school districts throughout the state, and the changes in the language reflect maybe some of the issues that they've dealt with in recent years, and this helps us be more proactive on that.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments on that? All right, thank you. And the next item on the agenda is the letter from the board for information and discussion.
Yeah, one of the things that we would really like to do is to, I think in the spirit of many of the actions that the board has taken in the last year, is just to put the board out there for the public, create more opportunities for engagement. And so one thought is our magazine goes out 3 times a year, and the deadline is approaching for the spring issue. We can, in fact, I already have a draft to preview sitting on my desk for me to read tomorrow morning. But we have a letter from the board president representing the school board that we wanted to get in front of you. And really what this letter does is it highlights and thanks our community for their support on the levy. It also just highlights some of the things that the board has focused on in the last year. The addition of the school resource officer, improving engagement with our community, live broadcast of all these meetings now, the addition of engagement committees, and then just kind of a note to encourage people to our community to watch for the invite to be involved in our engagement committees. The nice thing about the magazine is it goes to every single address in the school district, whether they have children in the schools or not. Maybe they haven't ever had children in the schools. I'll remind you, last fall when we did polling, tolerance polling on a potential levy campaign, a good share of our respondents did not have children in school, have never had children in school, but they still polled that they were going to be supportive of what the schools were doing. This magazine is our way to reach those folks, whether they want it or not. It shows up in their mailbox. So we thought giving the board a spot in that magazine would be a good step forward.
Very good. Anybody have any questions or comments about that? We'll go with that. Yeah, no, I think it captures for sure, like you had said, the things that we've been able to accomplish as a school district over the past few months, and I think it'll be a good start for sure to be in front of the community.
I like it.
Does it make sense to include, since we referenced that these meetings are not televised, streamed, I guess, does it make sense to put that link in there? And then it doesn't include any kind of way for people to contact. I don't know that they necessarily need to be contacting you. I don't know if you want to put your personal cell phone number on here,
Just
but there may be
the general
maybe a
board
need to put
email
the
address.
board email address or something on here at the bottom, just so they know
Yeah.
where to send questions or comments.
Yeah, I think maybe having that reference back to our YouTube page where they can watch the watch the live streams.
We will make sure that's clear. It really, I mean, if you go on YouTube and you say Grain Valley Schools,
It's there.
it's there. That's really where, that's probably the best way, but we'll go back and revisit that, and make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, and we could add a QR code if there was space to
Yeah, we
then
can do it, there you go.
Yeah.
scan, and then that way you're not trying to.
Find it, yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Very good, thank you. All right, that'll take us to the amended agenda items. We will start with the restaurant supply equipment.
Yeah, Dr. Gooch, can you tell us about the supply equipment? And just for everybody else tuning in, we knew when we prepped the board's packet for tonight that this bid information would come in today, and we like to get the board their information days ahead of time. So that's why we had a little bit of a shuffle, and we're going to talk about this one separately because several on the board have probably not had time to actually look at this. So we're going to discuss this as both of these as new business items. Dr. Gooch?
Sure. So one of the things, so we have to, the revenue that we generate through the food service department, we have to spend back on food service stuff. And so, as we have done various additions to the high school, and we are currently in the process of, adding the new addition to the new gymnasium field house, and there will eventually be a commons refresh and so on. Mr. Hughes approached me with the opportunity to kind of redo and revisit the way that the scramble area lays out, where the way students will come in, how they get their food, and then how they pay for it and go back into the commons. And so he approached me many months ago if there was a possibility for him to be able to revisit this and pay for it with the revenue that he's generated. So we sat down with our architectural firm, and we've had, again, many meetings with them in addition to plan the high school construction project. But now let's talk about what it is we can do within that scramble area. One of the things that Mr. Hughes would like to do, is considering doing, is purchasing all new serving equipment and having it set up in a way inside that scramble area that allows for better flow for students, because during the lunchtime, that place gets crammed with kids. And so is there a way that we could look at the flow of the room, needing new equipment that will specifically, that's improved with electricity and power usage, but also stuff that also is new to our brand. Our like the high school is, going to have this new commons look, and it was just appropriate timing, I felt like, to really make that scramble area look better as well as function better. And so what he needed to do is he needed the opportunity, after working with the architects and really determining the best way for that area to flow, then it was, let's look at purchasing new equipment. Well, whenever we finally figured or finalized the design of it, he had to work immediately on getting out an RFP for the equipment. And so he moved the RFP out as fast as he could. And today was the last day of the RFP. And they were sealed bids. He got them this afternoon, opened them all, and then spent the day kind of vetting every single item, making sure that everything that was in the RFP was included in all of the company's responses. And that is what was brought to you today. So we do understand, we apologize that we typically don't like to bring anything to you the day of the meeting. However, if we were to table the purchase of this equipment to the May meeting, then then the equipment wouldn't be here for the first day of school. And so that's why we had to really kind of go at the 11th hour here and wait until today. Again, he and his assistant Angie spent the whole day after the bid closing, opening and going line by line item. And what he is requesting is to go with the company you see, Index Restaurant Supply. It was the lowest bid out of all of the bids. And so, this is new equipment for our students to come and get served. That is the first component of this. This is what he would like you to recommend the purchase of this equipment for the $362,321. Questions? I hope that was a good enough explanation.
So just to clarify, so that anybody that's interested has the clarification. So this $362,000 of food service funding is strictly generated off of the over and above costs of what it costs for the food that we've provided.
Correct. In addition to a la carte sales, things like that.
Correct. And what we were just discussing sidebar here was we can't use that money to offset the
deficit?
The deficit.
No, we are not allowed to do that.
And we have this overage because there's certain dollar amounts that are also set that we can't go below. So we're in quite the quandary.
Yeah, it's weird to say that we have a negative lunch deficit, but also have a surplus in some revenue. And unfortunately, just due to restrictions around the money, we are not allowed to take that revenue and pay off student debt or staff member debt if they have it. And so this money, however, though, then has to be utilized within our nutritional services program. And so we can only spend it on enhancing items within our different kitchens and our cafeterias. And so, yeah, it's interesting to sit here and talk about a deficit, but also a surplus in this area. And this is, a couple of years worth of surplus that he's been able to add. And he at some point, he has a certain timeline that he is required to spend this money. And so we are getting to a point where he has a large enough amount of revenue that we have to figure out ways to spend this money. And so that's why he approached me of, now that we're doing, a commons remodel in this portion of the building, can I inject some funds to make this area more efficient?
And this was, if refresh my memory on the timing, wasn't it just a year ago we put ovens in 2 or 3 of the schools? We put
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And all of that. So when it comes to that type of equipment, that's all food service.
Correct.
Purchases.
Yeah, I mean, last year, we made Matthews Elementary a cook-in kitchen for the first time ever. And that was an awesome thing because their food was cooked somewhere and warmed up when it got brought to Matthews. And now we're able to, because of purchases that he's done, cook it there within the building. And so even though we have a revenue here, and this expense plus the other component of this will eat away at the money that we have, he will still generate new revenue over the next couple of years, into which he will then have to turn in and spend on new refrigerators, new ovens again, or something else, some other type of equipment. So this really isn't it's not new, because like I said, in the years past, it's been ovens, it's been the walk-in freezers, the walk-in coolers that we have in all the buildings. So this is kind of his next approach, is to let's really help enhance the experience there for students at the high school.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions or comments on that?
What's the projected time for it to be all installed?
This will be ready to go by the first day of school. So the next component of that I can talk to that more specifically when we get to the next part of the agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the next component of this is the Newkirk Novak Construction Partners component. So because Newkirk Novak is currently in our facilities bidding out, or building, our field house and doing the remodel in the kitchen, they're already the CM of our school district that is in-house. And so the best way that when we talked about this with our architects, really since all of the construction company, the electricians and all of them are already in place, what Newkirk did is then they came in, they evaluated the area, saw the plans that the architectural firm have made for it. And this is just while the work is being done in the commons over the summer, they're going to also be able to do the work in the scramble area as well. So it just took it took the footprint that they're going to be working in and just increased it enough. They still they would have let us know if they didn't. They are very confident that the work that they are going to need to be doing in this area in the summer is not going to delay us grabbing, the commons remodel or anything like that. This can be done simultaneously with the work they were already scheduled to do, and we will be able to take over, of course, the commons and all the new other building that we've done, but in addition to a scramble remodel all by the first day of school, or slightly before the first day of school. So does that answer your question? Okay.
Any questions about the second portion, the Newkirk Novak change order?
I like hearing budget's tight and then influx of money, but that's because it's being managed very well. So that's really cool.
Thanks.
So this whole business contracts, is this an action item, Jeff?
So we will have to have 2 action items based on the new amended agenda. So we'll take, I would look for a motion to approve the contract to, is it Index Restaurant Supply?
Correct.
Index Restaurant Supply in the amount of $362,321.
Totaling, if everything is approved, if all 4 items are approved, that's, I don't know, 650, 670?
We've already approved in the consent agenda, we've already approved the Affinity Construction and the Parent Square.
Okay,
It's just these 2 items.
okay, so 600.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Right. All in favor, or actually, do we have any additional discussion? All in favor of the approval of Index Restaurant Supply contract for $362,321, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next item would be looking for a motion to approve a contract change order to Newkirk Novak Construction Partners for the amount of $220,563.08.
Second.
Any discussion on that item?
Yes. I'm still a little unclear as to where this money's coming from. This is also coming out of?
Correct. Same fund.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, they're two separate items because one is a change order within Newkirk Novak's construction component. The other one is being purchased through a different company.
Yeah,
but
that
they're
makes
both-
sense.
Yeah, they're
I just wanted
they're
to make
both
sure.
within his,
So this is not bond money.
no.
Got it. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that also passes. Thank you. And that takes us to adjournment. Would look for a motion to adjourn. Bef- Did you say second? All right. And before that, I'd like to make one other comment that I almost forgot about. We do have Miss Shannon Jenkins in the back that has, that is taken a position outside of our district and is going to be moving closer to her family. And I wanted to take a moment and express our extreme gratitude and thanks for all of the hard work that you've done with the district from all of us at the board. So thank you very much, and we really appreciate it. And with that, all in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.